whinging about our various injuries. Let's spread some joy and happiness this Sunday morning with the questions we've had in.
Right, so guys, I'm gonna start with some of the questions we've had in. In all honesty, I'm gonna be really transparent here. James had to have a call just before this, so I haven't covered all of this stuff with him because we had some questions in late. So if James looks like he doesn't necessarily know what's going on, it's because you had an important call to make just before this, didn't you? So anyway, so one of the questions we've had this week, drum roll, is why don't I have any motivation? It is bloody frustrating, by the way, Gary. I've just seen that. Why don't I have any motivation to do what I know I need to do? So this is a really, really good question. It's one that we get asked a lot. Also, it's one that we experience sometimes in our own lives. So motivation is finite. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not, and it's affected by so many different factors going on in our life, even physiologically. But what I want to say is, waiting for motivation to come before you do anything or do what you know you need to do, you're going to be waiting for the rest of your life. Motivation does not come to those people just like in a flash of inspiration. Motivation comes by starting to act in a way that's aligned with where you want to go. As well as doing the mindset reps, you have to start doing things in order, need to get momentum in order to start having motivation. So one of the things that I would say is, why don't you ask yourself, so if you're thinking I've got no motivation, I'm just not inspired to do anything. One of the kind of like softer ways around this, I want to ask you the question now, if you are struggling with motivation, anyone out there watching on replay, is ask yourself, what would someone that felt motivated do? So I'm going to say that again. What would someone that felt motivated and was motivated, what would they do? Number one, what would they also think? So what would they do? So what would someone with motivation do, and what would they be thinking? I just want you to go back, watch the replay, make a note of something, and just ask yourselves that. If you struggle with motivation at any point, which we all do, that's one of the questions that I ask myself for sure. I'm like, what would someone that did feel motivated do, and what would they be thinking? How would they be behaving? So subconscious mind likes questions.
Yeah, I'm going to share a couple of things on that actually, because it's a big one for me. So when we think about motivation and willpower, it's generally we're utilising that when we're stretching in some way or going something that is not familiar, right? So we have to use it for the not familiar. It's about making those subtle changes so that the thing you're doing becomes familiar, becomes part of your life. Then you don't need your motivation to do it. Think of like a habit you have, like you don't need motivating to brush your teeth, for example. So you might making healthier choices or working out, start making it familiar. It's a long process. But there's a lot of research around this from neuroscience psychology that willpower is actually finite. And one of the theories that's out there about why we're facing obesity epidemics these days, apart from more junk food, poorer diet, etc., is that our willpower is taken up so much with the stress of life, with emails, workloads and stuff, that by the time we get to the end of the day, and there's research on this, our willpower pool has been reduced so much that we can't help but fall into the bad habits of trying to avoid, going to the cookie tin. Now, one thing I want to share with you, research...
You say things I've never heard you say in these things.
Oh.
You never use the phrase cookie tin.
Well, I was thinking of cookies, so I'm going to share some fascinating research that psychologists did years ago. They got groups of kids, and basically locked them in a room with a plate of
I'd like to do lock all children in the room. No, I'm sorry, I didn't say that.
Right then, Cruella de Vil. Locked them in a room with these freshly baked hot cookies. Imagine the hot smells. But they told the children the longer they could resist having a cookie, the bigger the reward they get, the more cookies they could eat down the line or something. And what's fascinating for us, they found that some kids just couldn't help themselves, straight into the cookies.
That'd be me.
Other kids could resist for a really, really long time. The fascinating part about this was it was a long-term study. They followed them up later in life, and they found those children that were able to resist eating the cookies actually had more successful outcomes in all areas of their life than the kids that acted on their impulse to go. But where this comes useful is, so that's just a bit of awareness to bring about, do I want to act on this impulse or not? What they actually found was they could actually train children distraction techniques to stop them eating the cookies as fast, to actually override the impulse. So it's great, I kind of got away from motivation, but if you're finding like one of your things is like slipping and snacking, bringing awareness to it and bring a distraction technique instead, like going for the fizzy water, going for the herbal tea, reading a chapter of a book can be a really good tip to help you keep stay on track.
No, definitely. And I think you've kind of touched on it here. One of the things I wanted to say was there's loads and loads of research as well that do the thing you don't want to do first thing in the day. Eat the frog. Don't do the first thing. If you know, like there was, I was reading a book the other day, this fascinating hypnotherapist, she's amazing, and she was basically saying that she's a weight loss hypnotherapist to begin with, now she's a super successful author. So basically she used to work with people that were heavily, like, really obese, like heavily, like on the verge of not being here, that kind of level of obese. So she was working with this one guy who's very, very wealthy in LA, and he was like, I don't want to get up and go to the gym. I'm ashamed of going into the gym. I don't like it. I hate it. So even notice what your brain is saying there. Like, if your brain is saying, I hate something, guess what? You're going to keep on hating it, and you're building those neural pathways. Oh, bless you, couldn't find you. You're building those neural pathways, constantly saying, I hate this, and you're locking your self-identity and you're programming into someone that hates the gym. So you need, you're never going to unpick that until you actually start acting like someone that is okay doing it. So, consistency is key. It's not going to happen overnight. But what she did, and we've seen this with our own clients, is just starting to build it up. So doing the thing that you hate first thing in the morning. So getting up, for him, it was going for a walk around the block. Getting up before anyone could see him, because he was ashamed and he moved slowly and he didn't like himself. So he had to get up really early and do it. And he hated it. He hated it for the first 7 to 14 days. And she actually went for a walk with him. I thought that was above and beyond, isn't it? But she actually started to get him moving and doing that walk, and then piece by piece, doing the thing that he hated doing, he started to actually enjoy it because it was out the way and it gave him a sense of pride. So it set himself up with something he was really, really proud of. You hate doing it, you did it, and it basically just makes you feel really, really good. And after a while, the response is, and the reward is that I feel really, really good about myself right now. So instead of kind of leaving it till the last thing in the day, just make sure you get it done. And the reward is that you feel really good about yourself. And that starts making the motivation come in and help with the motivation.
Yeah, actually, we were out talking to someone about this the other day, and they were like saying they find it really hard to exercise. So what they'll do is they'll put it off, going, I'll do it later in the day, but by the time the end of the day comes, they're like, oh, I'm so tired, I don't want to do it. I'm like, actually, prioritise your exercise, make it a priority, schedule it, and you only need that 15 or 20 minutes to make a difference. If you just commit to doing it, like, you've got it out of the way for the day. Psychologically, you like give yourself a pat on the back. It's like, wow, I've done it. You haven't got it hanging over you for the rest of the day, and you're getting the benefits of doing it.
And it becomes something that you enjoy doing.
Yeah, it comes to habits. But also you're getting the endorphins and the energy for the rest of the day to actually lift your mood and make you feel great. Yeah.
So guys, don't ever think that we don't get moments where it's different for everyone. But there are moments, even for me, since we moved to Marbella, I know I've spoken about this, so I felt like I didn't have the motivation sometimes to exercise, and it felt, I work 14 hours a day plus find time to exercise, meditate and do my breath work. It's hard sometimes. I love that. Sandy, it's amazing. I love that. Feel better when I do it, exactly. So even with work stuff, there are certain things that I just do not like doing. Finances is one of them. James ends up doing quite a lot of that. But there are things that I do get out of the way now in the morning, because I think to myself, if I leave that till later on in the day, I'm going to feel resentful. It's that burden for the rest of the day on me, knowing it's got to be done, and actually not feeling very good about myself and not feeling like I've achieved what I really needed to achieve, and just doing the bits that I enjoy. So eat the frog.
Do my hip before the kids get up, that way I don't get disturbed. Yes, Sam.
Exactly.
And don't you feel great after as well? Like all the feel-good hormones you get rushing through after a HIIT session does genuinely set you up for the rest of the day.
So what's amazing, why we're so honoured that we get to do what we do, is because even within 8 weeks, people on our programme, people that think it's going to take really long time to actually instill this as a behaviour that they naturally want to do, it actually is a lot quicker and happens a lot faster than you can imagine, because that That feeling good about yourself is addictive. That's what becomes addictive. Feeling good about yourself and getting up. It's not just the exercise, the endorphin. It's like having that, oh my God, I did that. I feel really, really proud. That feeling becomes addictive rather than the not doing it. That's it.
Totally.
Okay. Another one was I'm always hungry.
Oh.
Always hungry.
The hunger gremlin.
Yeah, so one of the things I just want to say, ladies at midlife, this is a particular problem for us. There's some research that says that our leptin, which is the I'm full hormone, triggers the sensation that I'm full. There's research that says that actually drops as we hit perimenopause and menopause. So basically, you are going to be feeling hungrier because your hormones are all over the place. I just wanted to say that.
Yes, hunger. Well, there's two types of hunger, really. There's the actual physiological hunger, i.e., your body actually needs fuel. But what can happen is over time, if we're overeating, over-consuming, we just get used. Our body's got used to that amount of food. So that's kind of a natural thing of drawing back in. If your goal is to lose some body fat, is to gradually reduce your intake.
Yeah.
And we'll give you some text in a moment to kind of be with that hunger. The other kind of hunger that is, I'd say, even more prevalent is just like habitual hunger out of boredom.
Emotional, yeah.
And particularly at the moment, with so many people in lockdown and sat at home, it's really easy to be like, oh, I just feel a bit flat. I'll go and eat some biscuits. I'll bake a cake for the kids and then eat half of it myself. So again, that's what we're talking about at the beginning with like the habits, just bringing awareness to it and catching it and trying to think of other things before you actually reach for the slice of cake or the biscuit or the bag of crisps. Like, oh, what else could I have or do instead?
I was going to say distract, that distraction technique.
In terms of dealing with hunger, actually the physical sensations, a really good one. Often when we're hungry, we can be mildly dehydrated. So a big glass of cold water. And then the other thing is basically make sure you're eating enough lean protein, because protein triggers hormone leptin, which sends a signal to the brain that I'm full. So if we have a high protein snack, and when I say this to people, if you ever sat down with like what looks like quite a small portion of fish, you know, ooh, and then you eat it, and you're like, actually, I'm really full now.
That happened to us in Primrose Hill.
Yeah. Because that's
that's not enough.
Pure protein and healthy fats, right? Both of which trigger your leptin. If you contrast that to,
pasta,
like 2 tubes of Pringles, which is just like pure carbohydrates, you can eat those and still be like, oh, I'm still hungry.
Pure something.
So it's about going for those protein and a little bit of the healthy fats options.
Yeah, so ladies, midlife ladies, your leptin's decreasing anyway, so what you want to be doing is just being aware of that and triggering the leptin as much as you can with having a high protein diet. So having a nice high protein breakfast, a nice high protein lunch, and a nice high protein, So James made pancakes this morning, didn't
Protein
you?
pancakes, high protein pancakes.
High protein pancakes, but I'm addicted. I'm addicted to my healthy shake in the morning. So I worked out this morning. I was like, I've got to have my protein, my peanut butter, and blah blah blah. So yeah, just and distract yourself. Just try and even just go out for a walk. Just actually think to yourself, is this taking me towards my goal or away from my goal? So that moment where you're like, I'm just habitually wanting to go and do that thing. This is the same for anything, not just hunger. But just think to yourself, is this taking me towards my goal or away from my goal? What's triggering this emotionally? Can I go and do something else that would serve my highest goal a lot better than going for that? Because actually, how am I going to feel about myself if I go and do that? A trick for you. I know I did this right at the beginning of this. Ask yourself questions. Your subconscious mind loves a good question, doesn't it? So in hypnotherapy, NLP, all that kind of stuff, that's why in coaching, that's why it's great to have a coach and a mentor, is because they ask you questions and your subconscious mind might resist at first, but it will get working on the answer, and sometimes it might not come straight away, but it will come to you in those weird, strange moments. I know we've all had those moments. You go, that's the answer. So just ask yourself, what else could I do? What else could I do? Rather than just going straight for it.
Sam, continue to be amazed at how your breakfast smoothie
at
keeps me full until lunch. Yes.
It's a good protein, the good fats.
Yeah. We love our smoothie.
I know.
And it does genuinely keep you going all the way through to lunch.
I'm a hungry Horace, honestly. Like I love my food, but that now, it just keeps me going until Definitely till like midday. Yeah. And the last one we had, this is quite a kind of, they all relate to each other to a degree. I'm not sleeping well, so I'm really struggling to sleep. I'm actually going to start with the more spiritual aspect of sleep and what's going on in the stars right now. So I don't know whether any of you have seen any of my posts, but I love all of this stuff. It is Jupiter and Saturn are aligning in the sky on the 21st of December, which is also solstice. And it's the first time, it's called a Christmas star because it's so close to Christmas, and it's the first time in 800 years. So I love all of this stuff. I really feel affected by the full moon and a new moon tomorrow as well. Full moons, I love looking into all of this stuff, but there's, I believe there has to be a definite impact on your sleep around a full moon, a new moon, and also what's going on with the stars at the moment. One thing I would say to you, I used to be married to a police officer. And he said that on new moon, so I'm not just making this up, it's not woo-woo stuff. I was very woo-woo, he wasn't very woo-woo at all. But he would say that on a full moon, people used to go, and I've heard this from doctors and nurses and A&E staff, people would go a bit la-la, and the emergency services would always be busy around a full moon. So there's a lot to be said.
It's a derivation of the word lunatic.
Yes.
It's because people would get more crazy at the full moon.
Yes, amazing time, Sandy. It's really, really amazing. 800 years, think about that the stars, Jupiter and Saturn hasn't been aligned like that.
Did anyone have disturbed sleep patterns around Wednesday, Thursday in particular?
Oh, yes, this is another
thing. This is fascinating, something we just learned. There was a high magnitude solar flare. So the sun effectively belches off blasts of energy, some of which travel towards the Earth, and this one did. It was like a very high magnitude, and it's like you can actually go to NASA and read all about it. We get bombarded with the X-rays first because they move faster than the speed of light, and then I think it's about 3 days later, I think it's the electrons and the protons hit the Earth. They cause massive geomagnetic storms in the atmosphere, so it makes the aurora borealis much more
amazing.
visible. But also has effects on radio waves, electronic equipment, and obviously like on humans and animals as well.
Well, you think about also talking about the full moon and the new moon, the gravity and the water pool. Most of our body's water, so that's why also we get that kind of real feeling and sense, especially if you are near water. James is always you're not so bad here. Not so.
It's not an island. On an island,
Ibiza, he was really, I used to call it PMT, pre-moon tension. He was all over the place. But aside from everything that's going on with the stars and everything, what's going on in the world, it's a crazy time. I will say this till the cows come home, we both will. Be really, really careful. I'm going to talk about something I'm going to do a live video on my own page for in a couple of days. But be really careful with subliminal messaging that's going on right now, because we were having this conversation with one of our lovely clients, and he was saying that it's fine to say it in here, his partner likes soaps. That's absolutely fine, watching soaps. And I see this with my gorgeous parents when we go home, they've got Coronation Street, EastEnders on, blah blah blah. The really interesting thing, the subliminal messaging behind that, even if you're not listening or really paying attention, it's all doom and gloom, guys. It's all doom, gloom, fear. It's basically giving you a sense of what life is like, right? So
but more miserable.
So you're normalising that behaviour. You're normalising that life. You're normalising the poverty, or you're normalising the doom and gloom and the life going really badly wrong for everyone all the time. So if you're watching that every single night, I just want to pose the question of what do you think that is doing to your outlook on what life is like? We are normalising that behaviour. No, I have to get up around 4 during the week and only slightly later. Normalising that behaviour, it's just kind of like feeding your senses, but not in a good way. So be really, really mindful of the subliminal messages. Also the radio. You might not be listening to it, but your subconscious mind is. So you might be just going around doing something, but you're hearing the adverts about COVID, about but all this bad news, all this stuff, the fear, and the anxiety. You might not even know that you're soaking it in, but you are. On some level, you are hearing it. This is why hypnosis works so well, because your subconscious mind is hearing it. So let's make sure that we're feeding it really amazing stuff, especially before we go to bed.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say if you are having trouble sleeping, putting stars, moons, and solar flares to one side, yes. Watch what you're feeding yourself generally in the day in terms of your mind with news, social media. But we always say come off social media at least an hour, preferably 2 hours before bed. Stay away from blue screens because it interrupts your sleep patterns. Just try and do something restful and relaxing just before bed. Don't eat too late. Make sure your room's properly dark, isn't too hot, isn't too cold. All those good sleep hygiene factors.
Have some magnesium as well. Obviously, don't just go out. But I would say a magnesium supplement is something that you take magnesium, don't you?
Sometimes I do, yeah.
So magnesium isn't just good for muscle aches and everything. It actually helps promote sleep. So do check that out as well. Magnesium will help, especially around perimenopausal and menopausal women. One of the things that, and there was a study, the thing that most perimenopausal and menopausal women hate about going through this change is the fact that they cannot sleep. And obviously, then there's higher anxiety, cortisol rises, you're feeling more stressed, lack of sleep. That's why I use it as a freaking torture, because actually a lack of sleep can just affect and negatively impact everything, physically, mentally and emotionally. So trying to set yourself up now as best you can to get good sleep. So magnesium, be careful about what you're feeding your senses all day, every day. Don't eat too late because your body temperature will go up as you're trying to digest food, and a higher body temperature keeps you awake. Try and listen to something like Insight Timer before you go to bed, something meditational, have your earphones in. Nice hot bath, a sleepy tea, we call it nice herbal sleepy teas. And also don't have too many heavy carbs in them either, so not just eating too late, but don't spike that insulin before you go to bed. Really heavy carb meals are going to spike that insulin and get you on a bit of a high. So just making sure that you're cutting some of that out as well. And as well, as we age, we become more insulin resistant anyway. So if you're feeding yourself carbs, your body can't process it as well as it used to either. So and also just making sure that your phone, turn your Wi-Fi off if you can. And make sure your phone isn't right next to your head. If you're using it as an alarm, don't. Go and buy a new one that isn't an electronic device.
Exactly.
That's it,
Joe,
guys.
I find magnesium really good, for balancing the mood. Yes, it does have a mood balancing effect as well, magnesium.
What did Gary say here? No matter
he
how
wakes up
tired
at 4
I
a.m.
am.
no matter what, because his mind's always racing. Gary, here's a little tip. If you've got stuff you're thinking about before you go to bed, something that would be really helpful just to write it down. Often the act of journaling it will kind of allay to your subconscious that it's being dealt with in some way and let it go.
Yeah.
So I just try journaling stuff that you're thinking about before bed.
I do that.
That can help.
I do that. That is really helpful. Really, really helpful. I just have a little bit of a brain dump, because then it releases it and there's not a resistance to it where you feel like you have to work it all out in sleep. I hope that helps, guys. Bit of a shorter one.
About half an hour so far. If you've got any questions, if you have any, pop them in.
Pop them in.
We'll keep talking in the meantime. So,
oh, yes.
So glad you're all here. Amazing. But starting tomorrow and all week, every day at 10 a.m. UK time, we're doing our Truth series. So we'll be, Claire and I, it'll be similar to this, we'll be jumping onto a live and hard hitting you with some midlife truth facts. And what you can do to address them.
Yeah, it's the stuff that we see coming up all the time, and we're giving you the kind of no holds barred truth around it, to be honest. Everything from why you keep on self-sabotaging, why you're kind of working against your health and happiness all the time, why you come up against resistance. But we're going to be focusing on, instead of like this where we're just answering different questions here and there and everywhere, we're going to be focusing on a coaching piece each day, kind of around each thing, and then you can jump in at the end and ask questions. So it won't be as interactive. We'll give you the chunk of information, some strategies that you can do, and then we can answer your questions at the end. But we really wanted to do this just coming into 2021, to be honest, because there have been so many changes for us. We said this on the post. There's been so many changes for us. This time last year, who knew that the world was going to be going into what it went into in 2020? And we've had to pivot. We had lots of challenges ourselves with our business, kind of living arrangements, all that sort of stuff, as many of you have, so many of you. But we wanted to, we got the Midlife method up and running, and then we've been doing that, and it's been amazing and wonderful, but we've learned lots from that. There's always really similar, familiar things with each client, even though you might think that your frustrations and your problems and your challenges are different. They are in their own way, but oftentimes you'll find that we have a lot of similarities that you don't even think that exist. So we're going to use some of that stuff to make sure that 2021 is within your control, that you are the powerhouse and the driving force behind it, and you regain control mentally, physically, emotionally. So those 5 days are going to take on a different stance, and then we'll do questions at the end. It's going to be amazing. We're so excited.
And yes, they'll be live, but obviously they'll continue to sit in the group for
about a week. Yeah, we'll leave them in there for a week on replay.
But try and catch them on the day if you can on replay.
Yeah, but that's why they're in. That's why we decided to do them inside the group, really, because 10 o'clock your time in the UK works well for us. We can go live. It's the same time. You know where you stand. But we wanted to do it live so people can go back if they've got other stuff going on. So they'll be around for a week. But we just can't wait to share it with you, really, because we know a lot of you might be needing support and that bit of motivation that we talked about, and a bit of that kind of like kick up the bum for 2021. So can't wait to do that. So excited. Yeah.
It's going to be amazing.
Right, guys, have you got any questions?
Nothing's come through.
No? So, I hope you have an amazing week coming.
Yes.
We'll see you,
Monday,
hopefully. Tomorrow morning. I can't believe it's Sunday already. And as always, you don't have to ask the questions on here. You can always reach out to James and I. Personally, we really do mean it. We really are here for you. And your health and happiness means a lot to us. So we will say goodbye here. And we're sending you lots and lots of love.